Okay. Once again, you get the wonderful opportunity to make your entire life better through having a few minutes of time watching a video of a clapped out 50-year-old talking to a box of electronics and lenses and plastic. Because that's a perfectly normal, ordinary, everyday, well adjusted thing to do, isn't it? Well, anyway, you've got me here. You've got me now, and I'm talking to you. And this is another video about me clearing things up. Okay, clearing things up to make sure that there's opportunities for people to have progress in life, and I don't want to be hated, and I don't want to hate other people either. So therefore, I'm telling you, in a clear-minded way, of this period in my life when my heart is actually opening much more to the subject of paganism and pagan culture and pagan people. Because that's essentially where I am. And it's not really like an occultic video. I'm going to go back to the occultic stuff very shortly, because like one or two little weird experiences have happened and I'm trying to put them into perspective, and I don't want to open my mouth about them until I've thought them through. Okay, because I don't want to communicate in a manner which is going to either upset people or drive people crazy. Big thank you for the commenters on my last video, and for those of you who have also adopted the use of Spooky 2 into their lives, thanks to me, which is really rather chuffing, actually. And I hope you get some wonderful results. And do tell me, with the passage of time, how well you're getting on with Spooky 2, what kind of results you're getting, how you're feeling on it, so on and so forth. And maybe we'll even have like a collaborative video at some point and talk a bit more about it from my point of view as a user and a trainer, rather than necessarily anything else. Okay, but back on the subject. Right. What I love, and loved, and still adore about the paganism, right, is the good things it's got in it. There is the seasonal celebration. You've got your own liturgical year. It's beautiful. And there's slightly different variations of it depending upon which particular symbol system you prefer. I think that's great. You've got ceremony. You've got mythology. You've got cosmology. All right? The things which help to balance the individual, contemplation about the elements, contemplation about the seasons, and also the higher power concept, having either one or more than one gender. Maybe you got male and female, maybe you just got the female, maybe you just got the male, just whatever it is you personally prefer. That provides a certain level of theological freedom. These things are good. I personally think that the adoration of a personal higher power of one form or another, or a universal one, has some variety of beneficial effect upon the human mind. And I think it is a good tool to be able to use to attempt to let go of issues and problems that you have, and maybe to feel a bit more comfort and reassurance, and also to give yourself a vision of maybe what you could be like as you carry on progressing on the journey of life. Maybe it's also an image of yourself as a more well-adjusted individual, or there's ways in which you can like build yourself up using imagery, language, and poetry. The sense of seasonality and the sense of place in the earth is also very pleasant. And also some of the various different local regional traditions are also quite good fun. When I was up in Derbyshire, there was these people talking about the local tradition of well dressing. Around about Easter time, they gather together and they would decorate the well to celebrate water and be thankful for water. That's a very ancient pre-Christian thing that's been passed on, and is still being practiced today. I personally would actually be in favour of central government telling local regions, such as the local counties, to try and raise at various different times of the year different rustic or pre-Christian traditions, so that there can be more things that people could use to tell the story of our own country, as well as to connect people socially. I personally am, funnily enough, a bit of a fan of Morris dancing, and have been for more than 30 years. More than 30 years. I was more interested in Morris dancing before I discovered paganism, really. I personally don't ascribe any particular spiritual significance to Morris dancing, apart from the fact it's done at a certain time of year, and it's part of the whole thing. It's part of the times of the year. People do it around about Christmas time, people do it around about May Day, and it's a thing which is quirky, it's fun, it's poetic. I see nothing wrong with any of this. At all. Under any circumstances. All of these things are stabilizing, harmonizing, fun, connecting you to community. There's cultural things which can stimulate you, make you feel better or happier inside yourself. And everything about this attitude is in fact good, true, wholesome, right, and should be encouraged. So, in that respect, that should be something that society could get behind as being a good, positive, fun, and appropriate thing. And you need to understand that I'm actually emotionally in favour of that. Very in favour of that. I have no objection whatsoever on any form of grounds, be it theological or political, or social, or psychological, or any way whatsoever. And I don't think any person with a reasonable level of sanity should object to those things. Right? So that's what I like. When I think about the use of the phrase, it works associated with religious processes, let's say, that appears to be more appropriate use for a meaning, saying this is aesthetically good, this is psychologically good, this gives me comfort, reassurance, a sense of place, and is therefore good. So therefore you could say that you have developed a faith or spiritual path which is beneficial to the individual. And therefore, from your point of view, yeah, this will do nicely. Therefore, you can probably use the phrase, it works, associated with religion, expressed as the aesthetic, spiritual side of things. So, I don't think you can necessarily say that there's a specific self-developmental things associated with that, apart from the fact that the grounding, comforting, reassuring, strengthening effects of doing ritual and connecting yourself with good things, can actually be beneficial for you, and maybe that gives you a sense of emotional wellness, so that you can then work on other aspects of your personal development through seeing counselors and working on your career and joining self-development groups, doing various different things to, build yourself up. So that, fine, zero objection. Probably even less than zero objection, because I want to encourage that. I think that people living in a certain way with a certain reverence for things like seasons, cycles of the moon, cycles of the earth, is a very, very, very good thing. I do that myself, in my own way, in my own context, not just through going out to the various 8 fire festivals done by this wonderful Celtic Christian outfit that I'm associated with, but also just that time, that time when you just think to yourself, okay, now today is midsummer, and you go outside and you think, what does the air feel like? What does it smell like? What is the color tone of the sunlight touching the leaves? What are the leaves and the plants and the flowers look like? And observing maybe throughout the whole year, the various different plants coming up, the flowers and the birds, and how they're all reacting to the seasons, and just feeling it and feeling that you're a part of it is again a very beautiful experience, which you might associate with a pagan way of thinking, but I regard that as a human thing. Just like human, I'm in nature, there is nature around, I am nature, my body is made of nature. So that's again something which I'm very in favour of. All these things, good, true, and wholesome. Okay? Kind of like, I sometimes think about what St. Francis said. I know I'm talking about paganism, I'm suddenly throwing in the St. Francis stuff here right now. But he said, preach the gospel, and if necessary, use words. So if all of these things you're doing, and maybe other stuff such as mindfulness meditation, other, relaxing and all the rest of it, prayerful techniques you're doing, if this stuff does you some good, allow it to change your character. Do it. Take it seriously. You don't have to go around telling anyone. You don't have to, when it comes to the Midwinter Festival, say, well, it's originally a pagan tradition, because everyone fucking knows that anyway. Everyone knows that, and people just do the whole thing because it's all the same shit anyway. Alright, maybe different words, different symbols, but still the same thing, right? Because that's what we people have been doing for centuries and centuries and centuries. The same thing. It's dark and miserable in the depths of winter in the northern European area, and we're all suffering from seasonal affective disorder, and so let's have a great party, right? And you can call it Christmas or Yule or whatever the heck you want to call it, or a festival of human light if you're an atheist, and you're still doing the same thing, really, And so, what kind of an objection can a person have to any of that? None. None whatsoever. Not in the least. Under any circumstances. And I don't object to that at all. Alright, but when there's bad language used, which explains things incorrectly, I mean, you can say that the religion works for you. Great, it works as a religion. It works as a path. It works as a foundation for other forms of spiritual development. It's great. Encourage it. It's good. But then you got the other use of language, which would be, let's say, witchcraft works. But the word witchcraft is not just used specifically to define a god and goddess religion with the five elements, with a cyclical seasonal celebration around the moon and around the solar cycles. No, because the word witchcraft also means lots of other stuff. And you're suggesting that, as I mentioned in the previous video about last year, that the result would have to be specific, time-bound, measurable, reliable, and repeatable for you to say that all those other things also work. And we can't really say that, because my channel has been about experimenting with this stuff. I've been trying to understand magic basically since I was a 4-year-old and I saw ghosts. Okay, I'm now 50. But then, of course, with the issue of magic works, the word magic doesn't just mean what you think it means in your denomination of it, okay? Because the word magic is used to mean lots of other stuff. And again, to say magic works means all the other stuff must also be specific, time-bound, measurable, reliable, and repeatable, which, as I say, it's not. And the more, as we hear from Dean Radin, human skill is variable, so essentially we can't necessarily say that we can reliably do stuff. We can make attempts, definitely. And with the passage of time, we can try and improve our ability to make attempts. But we've also got to work out what's really real in this stuff and what's not necessarily as 100% reliable. All right? So, religion, fine. Do it. I encourage it. I want you to. Seriously. Because it's the thing which can help to grind you and balance you and all this other good stuff. I encourage you in that. I very seriously want you to do it with my blessing. And I don't want you to stop doing it. I want you to take where you are, and I want you to carry on expanding what you are with the passage of time, and what you understand with the passage of time. As I personally came to magic as a more specific subject at about the age of like 19, when I first got my hands on the Transcendental Magic by Alphonse Louis Constant, Eliphas Levi. And in that he says, the magician can use all the symbols of every religion without hypocrisy. That's kind of like where I come from. Right? The symbols of all religion without hypocrisy. Right? That's the kind of world that I'm in. So I can't culturally isolate myself specifically within pure paganism. Instead, I'm part of a way of looking at things, a way of approaching things, which is much broader than that, but incorporates each and every single thing which is within paganism and witchcraft. Alright, but I'm also part of a larger set, which means that I've got a much more complicated experience of faith and a much more complicated experience of practice. And I'm, to a certain degree, obsessed with the process of the search for truth. And that means something which is real, genuine, specific, time-bound, measurable, reliable, and repeatable. Okay? I haven't got anywhere near there. And lots of people out there say they have, but I don't think they have. The more specific people who have been trained in, let's say, radionics, they have turned themselves into people who have to because it's their job to deliver energy. So they're another distinct entity of energy practitioner. But then let's also think about how the term, in this case, witch, may have evolved. My impression would be that in the ancient days there would be people who would be specialists in various different things, and probably the vocabulary wasn't all that good then. So there may be someone who was a good wheelwright and they would build wheels, or someone else who was good at making flint axe heads and they just made flint axe heads, right? But not everyone else in the tribe can do it, so that person becomes the wise person. And maybe they had one word meaning wisdom. And maybe they just applied that to everyone. You know, that builder over there, he's doing things which I can't, so he's the magician or the witch or the wise person of the building. And that person over there, he can make the flint axe heads, so he's the witch or the magician or the wise person of the axe heads. You know what I mean? So that's the way in which I would see that. But then the meaning has changed. One would assume that a period in tribal history would have occurred when a specialist would emerge who would be more suited to healing and herbs and delivering children in childbirth and that kind of stuff. And the same word for wisdom could then be applied to them. With the passage of time, they developed a more senior role within the tribe, and therefore maybe the use of the word magic or wisdom or whatever it was for the flint axe heads and the building and the wheelwright work kind of like went into disuse. So instead we just have the word wisdom applied to what we could assume would be skilled healers and skilled midwives. And that person would also then, in a more simple matriarchal society, have much more importance because nobody else knows how to do it and you've only got a village of 30 people, right? And you can't really travel to another village or another town because essentially the only way you can get around is by horses and they cost too much money or something like that, you know. So you're only reliant upon this group of 30 people to keep yourself alive and well. But then let's think about what the word means now. It's become much more associated specifically with religion, energy work, forms of energy healing, and aspects of mediumship. Okay, that kind of like that general sort of psychic spiritual experience aspect. But also, we have to build a specific knowledge and a specific understanding to be able to communicate what that is to other people. And that's essentially what a lot of my life is really about. There is something real there. There is something very real, very serious, very important. And it has some kind of relation to us as people. And that's why I'm fascinated with the search for spiritual experience. And I apply questioning, and I apply doubt and skepticism to it, because that's how I make sure I don't fall into a rabbit hole of specific thoughts and get myself tangled up in those thoughts and feelings. It's just, it's worthwhile maintaining, your intellectual independence. And for that reason, I think that, we still need to work on analysis, we still need to work on clear-minded understanding about what we're talking about. Okay? One can use the phrase, it works aesthetically. Spiritually, in terms of something which feels comfortable to you, yes, but not spiritually in terms of controlling the entire universe. Okay? Just a few thoughts for today. I hope that you understand more about where I'm coming from. For those of you who have felt really, really bad because some of the things I've said and done here which have been against certain expressions, and I regret having expressed myself emotionally like that. I'm an individual with my own emotional problems. I'm like you, like everyone. I'm the least perfect person in the world. Just like you are, and everyone else in the world. We're all least perfect people in the world. And I just close my eyes and get to sleep now. Look after yourselves, and try and be sane, rational, and clear-minded, as well as loving and spiritual, and do your faith stuff with clarity of thought and wisdom.